A vast silence spreads across the universe, deeper than any ocean, older than any mountain. The camera drifts through a sea of stars, their light shimmering like ancient whispers in the dark. Each glowing sphere burns not just with fire, but with memory, the record of time itself written in radiation and gravity. The narrator's voice begins softly, almost reverently, as if speaking from somewhere beyond human comprehension. Before you were born, before your ancestors took their first breath, before there was a sky to look up to, there was this. The screen fades to black, and for a heartbeat, all light disappears. Then a single flare ignites in the distance, expanding, breathing, becoming everything. The universe opens like an eye. Nebulas swirl in colors that human language cannot name. Time itself begins to flow, yet the question lingers: what existed before the first moment ticked? Can something truly come from nothing, or does nothing even exist? As galaxies form, the voice continues, guiding the viewer through the chaos of creation, through the wild beauty of beginnings. We call this light, the voice says, but what if light was not the first to arrive? What if something older still hides in the void, forgotten by even the laws that govern existence? The scene shifts to deep space, where background radiation hums like the echo of a long-forgotten song. Every photon that strikes the lens carries a story billions of years old. Each beam of light we see tonight began its journey before Earth was born, before the Milky Way was a spiral in motion. The camera dives closer, past frozen comets, through glittering dust, and into the heart of a collapsing star. The colors pulse, a heartbeat of the cosmos, and the narrator's tone grows more intimate, as if sharing a secret. We look up and see the light of creation, he whispers, but there are rays that never reached us, ghosts of an existence that preceded time. Through the symphony of imagery, a theme begins to emerge. Creation is not a single event, but a conversation between light and darkness. The brightness of existence owes its beauty to the shadows that frame it. Without the void, the stars would have no meaning. Without mystery, there would be no wonder. The voice returns: we chase the beginning, but what if the beginning was never meant to be found? As the camera zooms outward again, galaxies scatter like fireflies in an endless night. The music swells, a haunting orchestral rise that stirs the soul. For a moment, the viewer feels the same ancient awe that the first humans must have felt staring into the heavens. In that feeling lies the seed of the entire story, the human hunger to understand the light beyond creation. What is it? Where did it come from? And why does it call to us still, across the silence of eternity? The final image of the section shows the Earth, a fragile blue shimmer floating in darkness. From this small world, all our questions rise, all our myths are born. The narrator ends in a quiet tone, the kind that lingers after the sound fades. In every sunrise, we see the echo of that forgotten light. The universe began once, but perhaps creation never truly ended. Before time had a name, there was no dawn, no dusk, no rhythm to existence. There was no ticking clock, no heartbeat of the cosmos, only an immeasurable stillness stretching beyond imagination. The screen fades into darkness so complete it feels alive, an endless expanse without direction or memory. The narrator's voice drifts through this void like a thought before consciousness. What is before everything? The voice asks. Before light. Before space. Before the very idea of before existed. The question hangs, echoing in an infinite silence where even echoes have nowhere to go. In this timeless expanse, nothing moves because movement itself has not yet been invented. There is no energy, no space to contain it, and no observer to witness the emptiness. Yet, within this absence lies potential, a tension waiting to be released, a silent breath holding everything that would ever be. Scientists call it a singularity, an infinitesimal point where all the laws of physics collapse. But in poetic truth, it is something even more haunting, the womb of reality itself, unseen and unmeasured. The scene shifts to a slow-moving ripple forming in the void, a trembling of existence so faint it could almost be mistaken for imagination. This is not the birth of time yet, but its conception, the moment when potential flirts with becoming. Philosophers have long pondered whether the universe emerged from nothing or whether nothing has always been a disguise for everything. The narrator's tone deepens, carrying both awe and unease. Maybe the universe did not begin, he says. Maybe it remembered itself into existence. As the visuals unfold, streams of energy bloom like sparks in slow motion, painting the blackness with the faintest light. The void is no longer empty, it quivers with the hum of quantum whispers. Tiny fluctuations, unseen, unfelt, dance with a rhythm that will one day become matter, gravity, and thought. It is strange, the narrator continues, that the smallest tremors in the silence of eternity could give rise to galaxies, oceans, and us. The pacing slows again, immersing the audience in a hypnotic balance between peace and anticipation. The music is delicate, a single sustained note echoing like the vibration of a string before it's plucked. The screen fills with swirling patterns, mathematical yet organic, like the fingerprints of reality being formed. This is the place where laws are born, where the first framework of existence sketches itself in invisible ink. Energy, gravity, and time begin to take form not as separate entities but as facets of one unfolding consciousness. And yet there is still no moment in any human sense. Time has not yet started counting. Without change there can be no before or after, no sequence, no story. What exists here is pure being, an eternal now that never moves. It is the most profound stillness imaginable, and yet within it hides the potential for chaos, explosion, and birth. The voice returns, softer now. Imagine an eternity waiting for itself to begin. The imagery deepens. A faint flicker pierces the blackness, then another. They multiply like thoughts sparking in a sleeping mind. It is not yet light in the human sense, but an awakening, the dream of illumination. The camera follows this faint shimmer as it ripples outward, a vibration that will one day become the Big Bang. Perhaps, the narrator suggests, time began not with an explosion but with awareness. The universe became conscious of itself, and in that awareness creation began. The tone shifts from wonder to existential curiosity. What if time isn't a straight line stretching from the past to the future, but a loop forever folding back upon itself? What if the end and the beginning are the same event seen from different directions? The visuals rotate gently, galaxies forming backward, collapsing into the same singular point. A whisper echoes, "If time had no birth, can it ever die?" The section crescendos with a visual of light gathering force, as though the universe is taking its first breath. The music swells, filling the vastness with an emotional pulse. We feel the weight of everything about to be, stars, atoms, life, all suspended in a fragile pause before the leap into existence. The narrator's voice becomes both distant and divine. In the stillness before creation, the universe dreamed of fire. In that dream, time awoke. Then, with a blinding surge of brilliance, the void fractures. Light spills in all directions, igniting the first second, marking the dawn of measurable existence. The silence that once was infinite is now replaced by motion, by expansion, by the relentless rhythm of time beginning to flow. Yet even as creation surges forward, something remains behind in that untouched stillness, the forgotten light beyond creation, waiting in the shadows of eternity, beyond the reach of every clock and every star. Light. The simplest word, yet the most mysterious force to ever exist. It is both wave and particle, constant yet elusive, seen yet never touched. In the beginning, it was light that pierced the nothingness, the first messenger from the heart of creation. The film opens with a burst of color spreading through darkness like veins of gold through obsidian. The narrator's voice glides softly over the scene. Light does not just reveal the universe, it creates it. And with that, the story of illumination begins, not as a physical phenomenon, but as a sacred language written in the fabric of reality itself. Light is not merely brightness. It is time made visible. Every beam that touches our skin has traveled across centuries, carrying the memory of stars long dead. A single photon striking your eye might have left its home before the first humans ever spoke. In this sense, every act of seeing is an act of remembering. The universe communicates with us through light, its oldest alphabet. The Milky Way gleams like a sentence written across the void, each star a syllable in a divine script. But what is it trying to say? What ancient message hides in these frequencies that never rest? As the visuals shift, light is shown as painter and historian. It carves mountains, feeds forests, ignites the hearts of suns. Yet, it also bears witness to extinction, to decay, to the end of things. The narrator describes how the same radiation that gives life can also strip atoms apart. Light is not good or evil, he says. It simply is, the raw essence of existence. The screen flashes between creation and destruction, solar flares and collapsing stars, reminding us that illumination and annihilation are siblings born of the same fire. The tone deepens. A scientist appears amid glowing equations, explaining how light defines the limits of perception. We measure the cosmos by what light reveals, but we are also blinded by what it cannot show. Beyond visible light, the voice continues, there are hidden worlds, infrared whispers, ultraviolet ghosts, X-ray dreams. We are surrounded by light we will never see. The thought hangs in the air like a prophecy. The unseen is not absence, it is mystery disguised as silence. The camera drifts through wavelengths, colors bending and blending, until we reach the photon itself, the smallest unit of light, both eternal traveler and flickering illusion. The narrator speaks in almost poetic reverence. A photon never ages. It never experiences time. From the moment it's born until it dies, it remains untouched by the clock. The visuals dissolve into a breathtaking concept. Light as the immortal observer, watching the universe unfold without ever moving through its own lifetime. To light there is no past or future, only forever. The scene transitions to humanity's encounter with illumination. Ancient priests lighting torches at dawn. Galileo's telescope piercing the heavens. Einstein scribbling equations that would redefine our understanding of space and time. Every leap in knowledge begins with the same revelation: follow the light. Yet the more we chase it, the stranger it becomes. The narrator's tone sharpens, layered with awe and suspicion. We thought light would explain the universe. Instead, it revealed how little we understand it. Now, a contrast emerges between the scientific and the spiritual. Physicists dissect photons with mathematics. Mystics worship light as divine essence. One side sees equations, the other sees enlightenment. Yet both gaze at the same brilliance. Light, the narrator suggests, may be the bridge between knowing and being. The sequence intercuts lasers and prayers, observatories and temples, merging faith with physics until they appear indistinguishable under the glow of understanding. In this moment, the film slows, becoming intimate and reflective. We see light shimmering across water, refracting through a child's eye, scattering into rainbows across glass. These ordinary miracles remind us that the cosmic and the personal are one continuum. The light that formed galaxies also falls gently on human skin. It is both infinite and immediate. When you open your eyes, the voice whispers, you awaken the same energy that birthed the stars. But as with all profound truths, there is a shadow beneath. Light defines itself through darkness. Without the void, there would be no glow, no form, no meaning. And so, the section closes with tension. The narrator poses a final question that fades into the silence. If light is the memory of creation, then what remembers the light? The camera pulls back from the flicker of a candle to the shimmer of galaxies, suggesting that every spark, from flame to supernova, may be part of one unbroken message, a message we have only begun to read. Somewhere beyond the hum of space, past the galaxies that spin like golden storms, lies a question older than light itself. Who, or what, wrote the laws that govern everything? The section begins with an image of the universe unfolding in slow motion. Galaxies drifting apart like drifting embers, stars igniting in silence, matter assembling itself as if following an invisible command. The narrator's tone is contemplative but charged with mystery. There is symmetry here, he says, precision too perfect to be accidental. Gravity holds, light bends, atoms obey. But who taught them the rules? The imagery intensifies. Equations fade across the screen. E equals mc squared, Planck's constant, the golden ratio, symbols glowing faintly like cosmic hieroglyphs. The narrator continues, these are not just numbers. They are the fingerprints of an architect. The idea takes shape gradually, not as dogma, but as wonder. The film does not name the architect, whether God, consciousness, or an intelligence embedded in the structure of reality, but it invites the audience to imagine design hidden within chaos. Every law of physics begins to look less like coincidence and more like intention. The story cuts to the microscopic world. Electrons orbiting nuclei, quantum fields shimmering like invisible oceans. Even in randomness, patterns emerge, mathematical, elegant, self-sustaining. Nature does not guess, the voice says. It calculates. The visuals show neurons firing, rivers branching, galaxies spiraling, all mirroring each other in fractal repetition. The same geometry governs the blood in our veins and the arms of the Milky Way. The viewer begins to feel that everything, stars, storms, even thought, is part of one grand equation. But then a shift. The narrator introduces contrast, belief versus reason, faith versus empiricism. We hear voices from both sides of the eternal debate. Scientists insisting on randomness, philosophers whispering about purpose. To call it design is arrogance, one voice says. To call it coincidence is blindness, replies another. The pacing quickens, alternating between the certainty of logic and the seduction of mystery. The tension builds. Is the universe mechanical or meaningful? Is intelligence an emergent property, or its origin? The scene changes to ancient temples under starlit skies. Priests trace constellations believing they are reading divine messages. Their chants merge with the hum of modern laboratories, where scientists gaze into particle accelerators, hunting for the same answers in different languages. Across ages, the narrator reflects, we have always sought the author of the code. Light and shadow flicker over faces, prophets and physicists, united by the same quiet question. Then comes a revelation through contrast. A scientist speaks of entropy, decay, and chaos, the inevitable disintegration of all structure. Yet the visuals counter her words with the birth of new stars, flowers blooming in time-lapse, crystals forming with perfect symmetry. The universe seems to fight against its own demise, endlessly rebuilding what it allows to fall apart. Order is not an accident, the narrator insists. It is rebellion against the void. The section deepens emotionally as the narration takes a philosophical turn. If there is an architect, the voice muses, it may not be a being but a principle, a pulse of intelligence woven into the math of existence. The visuals slow down, a drop of water falls into stillness, ripples expanding endlessly outward. That ripple becomes a spiral galaxy, then a human fingerprint, then the swirl of DNA. The imagery fuses, blurring the boundary between creator and creation. The pacing now slows to let the viewer breathe to reflect. The narrator's voice softens. Perhaps we do not live inside the universe, he says, but inside its mind. The idea feels both unsettling and transcendent. If everything follows a hidden logic, then maybe consciousness itself is the ultimate design. Maybe the universe is not being observed. It is observing through us. The tone grows darker again, questioning its own beauty. But if there is an architect, the narrator asks, why would perfection allow pain? Why does order coexist with cruelty? The film juxtaposes cosmic harmony with human suffering, war, famine, loss. The music lowers into minor tones, evoking unease. Perhaps, the voice suggests, the architect's design requires imperfection. For without darkness, light could never define itself. The final moments of the section build toward awe. We return to the vast cosmos, a camera gliding through endless starlight. Every law, every constant, every pulse of light now feels alive, intentional. The universe, the narrator concludes, is not an accident. It is a thought, still unfolding. As the image fades, a haunting line remains, and somewhere beyond the edge of space the architect still dreams. Darkness. It arrives not as an intruder but as a beginning. Before the first spark of creation, before the song of light, there was shadow, formless, endless, patient. The film opens in complete blackness, a silence so heavy it feels alive. Slowly, faint murmurs of cosmic wind emerge, the sound of nothing preparing to become something. The narrator's voice enters, low and deliberate. We speak of light as the first creation, he says, but what if darkness came first, not as absence but as the womb from which everything was born? A slow visual unfolds, a swirling mass of unseen energy, the hidden architecture beneath reality. This is the birth of darkness, the primal void that held creation in its arms. The narration continues, describing how ancient myths once revered the dark as sacred. The Egyptian Nun, the primordial waters; the Hindu Shunyata, the divine emptiness; the Greek chaos, the mother of gods. Before light, the narrator whispers, there was the mother of all things, silence, black, infinite. The tone is reverent, not fearful. This is not darkness as evil but as potential, pure, waiting, powerful. The camera drifts through an abstract ocean of shadow where energy flickers faintly, forming the first patterns of order. The pace is slow, meditative. The viewer begins to sense a paradox, that darkness is not the opposite of light but its necessary partner. Every photon, the voice explains, needs darkness to reveal itself. Without shadow, illumination has no purpose. In this moment, darkness becomes not the villain of creation, but its stage, its first canvas. The visuals shift from myth to science, zooming into the deep folds of the universe. Between galaxies lies the true majority of reality, dark matter, dark energy, invisible and untouchable, shaping the cosmos more profoundly than light ever could. We are made of starlight, the narrator says, but we live in a universe ruled by shadow. The audience learns that 95% of the universe is unseen, and yet its presence dictates every motion, every orbit, every life. The tension rises as the voice adds, perhaps the real story of creation is not the rise of light, but the dominion of the dark. The imagery turns ominous but mesmerizing. Black holes consume stars, twisting space and time into spirals of despairing beauty. These are not monsters, the narrator says, but gateways, places where the laws of physics end and something else begins. The tone oscillates between fear and fascination, contrasting the terror of oblivion with the majesty of mystery. The black hole becomes a symbol of both destruction and rebirth, the heart of all paradox. The narration deepens philosophically. Darkness teaches us humility, the voice says. It reminds us that the majority of existence is beyond sight. A sequence unfolds showing a person standing beneath a night sky, stars shimmering faintly against an ocean of void. The camera zooms out until the person disappears, swallowed by the enormity of space. What we call reality, the narrator continues, is but a faint ripple upon an endless dark sea. The film now enters its emotional core, a reflection on the human relationship with darkness. We have feared it since the dawn of time. Fire was our rebellion against the void. Cities were built to chase away night. Yet, the darker the world becomes, the more stars we can see. Darkness does not erase light, the narrator whispers. It reveals it. The pacing softens, accompanied by slow strings that evoke awe and sorrow. As the section progresses, darkness becomes a metaphor for consciousness itself. Just as the cosmos emerged from the void, so too does every human thought emerge from silence. The narrator compares the night sky to the human mind, both infinite, both containing light scattered through immensity. Without darkness within us, he says, we would never recognize illumination, never seek understanding. The visuals show neurons firing in the brain, their glow echoing constellations. The universe and the mind are shown as mirrors, each born of the same original shadow. Then a chilling twist. But not all darkness is gentle, the voice warns. The music shifts to lower tones, unsettling. We see the cold death of stars, the black void consuming everything it once gave. Entropy spreads like frost across creation. The film contrasts the nurturing darkness of potential with the devouring darkness of ending. Every birth, the narrator says, carries the seed of death. Every light casts a shadow that eventually swallows it. The imagery becomes increasingly symbolic, light flickering, fading, reborn again in cycles. The tone is heavy with melancholy yet suffused with wonder. Perhaps the universe is not fighting darkness, the narrator reflects. Perhaps it is learning to dance with it. As the camera pulls back, galaxies swirl like glowing embers suspended in a cosmic night that stretches without end. The voice continues, darkness was not defeated by light. It chose to contain it. And in doing so, creation began. The final moments are quiet and haunting. The viewer sees a single point of light glowing in infinite black, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The narrator ends with a line that feels both ancient and prophetic. In the beginning there was darkness, and it dreamed of light. The screen fades to black again, not as an ending but as a return to origin, suggesting that every end is merely the next silence before another dawn. There comes a moment when the universe begins to see itself. Not through telescopes, not through mathematics, but through eyes, fragile, blinking, living eyes. The film opens with the Earth slowly turning beneath a golden sunrise. Mist rises from oceans, continents shimmer under the new light. The narrator's voice enters, calm and reflective. For billions of years, the cosmos expanded in silence. Stars burned, galaxies collided, time flowed without witness. Then one day the universe looked back. The scene transitions to the primordial Earth, volcanic plains, thunderous skies, lightning striking oceans thick with potential. Within those chaotic waters, something stirs, the first spark of life. Cells divide, cluster, evolve. The visuals are microscopic yet cosmic in tone, showing how life begins as a flicker, a pulse, a vibration that mirrors the rhythm of the stars. This, the narrator says, was the first reflection. The moment matter began to feel. As the camera zooms out, eons pass in seconds. Forests rise, oceans teem with creatures and eyes evolve, the first windows through which light perceives itself. The universe, the voice continues, had spent eternity emitting light. But now for the first time light was seen. This is the turning point, awareness entering creation. Consciousness becomes the bridge between existence and meaning, transforming raw energy into experience. The pacing quickens as evolution unfolds, a breathtaking montage of forms, faces, and awakenings. From single-celled beings to primates gazing at the moon, the imagery conveys the grand miracle of perception. To see, the narrator says, is not a passive act. It is creation revisiting itself. Every observation alters what is seen. Every thought bends the shape of reality. The universe, through countless eyes and minds, begins to understand that it exists. The tone shifts to a deeply emotional register. The film cuts between humans looking up at the stars and stars collapsing in distant galaxies. The narrator connects them in one poetic thread. The same atoms that once burned in ancient suns now think, dream, and remember. We are the cosmos in human form, the echo of its first awakening. The music swells, evoking both pride and humility. We are not separate from the universe, we are its consciousness made flesh. But the narration introduces contrast. Awareness brings beauty but also fear. With perception comes the realization of mortality, of impermanence. When the universe saw itself, the voice says, it also saw its end. The visuals darken, dying stars, decaying leaves, the slow collapse of galaxies. Consciousness becomes both blessing and burden. The light that once illuminated now reveals suffering, loneliness, longing. The cosmos learns pain through the minds it created. The film pauses on a close-up of a human eye reflecting a night sky. What we call the soul, the narrator whispers, is the memory of the universe looking inward. The camera zooms deeper, through the pupil into neurons firing like constellations. Each thought is a spark, each emotion a storm. The parallels between the mind and the cosmos grow stronger. Galaxies swirl like synapses, black holes mirror forgotten dreams. You are not in the universe, the voice continues. You are the universe, aware of itself for the briefest moment in eternity. The section transitions into philosophical wonder. What is consciousness? Is it an accident or the ultimate purpose of creation? The narrator poses the question with reverence. Was the cosmos always destined to awaken? Or did awareness bloom unexpectedly, like a wildflower in infinite stone? The visuals mix science with poetry, neurons blooming like stars, stars collapsing like dying thoughts. The contrast keeps the emotional energy high, awe intertwined with fragility. Then a serene interlude. A child stares at fireflies in a summer field. A scientist watches galaxies through a telescope. A monk sits in silent meditation. Each image represents the same act, the universe observing itself through different forms of awareness. Every gaze, every question, every act of wonder, the narrator says, is the cosmos reaching for its own reflection. The tone is warm, almost spiritual, balancing the vast with the intimate. But the film doesn't allow complacency. If the universe now sees itself, the narrator continues, does it also judge itself? The pace slows again, drawing viewers into introspection. Humanity's search for meaning, for God, for truth, all become mirrors of the same desire, to understand why awareness exists at all. The contrast between enlightenment and confusion, discovery and despair, gives the scene depth. As the section nears its climax, the imagery grows grand again. Time-lapse skies, auroras rippling over frozen seas, eyes opening in darkness. The narrator's voice rises. In every spark of consciousness, from the hum of an atom to the mind of a human, the universe awakens a little more. We are not witnesses, we are continuations. The line echoes, reverberating through stars and silence alike. The final scene is meditative. A single drop of water falls into a still pond, its ripples reflecting the cosmos above. When the universe first saw itself, the narrator concludes softly, it became more than matter. It became meaning. The music fades into a faint hum, the sound of creation breathing through awareness, of time folding back upon itself. The screen fades to black, but the viewer is left with an undeniable truth. Consciousness is not separate from the cosmos. It is its way of remembering that it exists. In every age of discovery, there are whispers of knowledge that vanish, formulas forgotten, manuscripts burned, minds silenced. The film opens with the image of a dusty library lit by flickering candlelight. Ancient scrolls lie scattered, ink faded by centuries. The narrator's voice is hushed but intense. The story of science is not only a record of what we have learned, it is also the graveyard of what we have lost. A breeze stirs the papers as if history itself is sighing. Between the lines of progress there are gaps. Within those gaps lie the forgotten equations. The tone begins with intrigue and unease. The visuals move through the ages. Babylonian astronomers mapping the heavens, Greek philosophers tracing geometry in sand, alchemists in shadowed chambers mixing mercury and fire. They reached for truth, the narrator says, but truth is fragile. It disappears when those who hold it are silenced. The pace builds like a mystery unfolding. We see fragments of sketches, Leonardo's machines, Tesla's diagrams, theories scribbled in margins never published. These lost notes pulse faintly on screen, suggesting something immense hiding just beyond the reach of time. The scene shifts to the modern world. Scientists stand before blackboards filled with equations that seem endless, recursive, beautiful. For every formula that changed the world, the narrator continues, there were others that vanished, too strange, too early, too dangerous to survive. The music deepens with a sense of curiosity laced with melancholy. The idea emerges that knowledge, like light, can be obscured by shadow. What we call progress may only be the fragments of a larger truth we've forgotten. The film transitions into the age of suppression. Moments when discovery clashed with power. The burning of the Library of Alexandria, Galileo silenced by the Church, theories dismissed because they contradicted the dominant story of the cosmos. Sometimes knowledge is lost not by accident, the voice says, but by design. The screen fills with fire and ash, pages curling into smoke. We remember those who were celebrated, but what of those who were erased? The visuals become more modern, showing old laboratories, classified files, and faded photographs of scientists whose ideas were never acknowledged. Among them, anonymous figures, those who glimpsed truths that society was not yet ready to see. History does not reward heretics, the narrator whispers. It buries them beneath the comfort of consensus. The contrast intensifies between those remembered and those forgotten, between discovery and disappearance. Now the scene slows and the focus turns philosophical. The narrator muses, what if these forgotten minds touched the edges of creation itself? What if they saw beyond the known laws, beyond what even light could explain? The visuals merge fragments of lost equations with stars, galaxies, and glowing networks of energy. Perhaps the universe has already been understood many times over, he says, only for understanding to be lost again and again. The pacing shifts from lament to wonder. The film now becomes an exploration of rediscovery. We see modern physicists revisiting ancient mathematics, quantum scientists quoting philosophers of antiquity. Knowledge is circular, the narrator continues. It does not vanish, it waits to be found again. The imagery illustrates this beautifully, forgotten formulas blending into DNA strands, then into galaxy spirals, implying that truth never truly disappears, it simply hides in new forms. The tone darkens once more, bringing emotional weight. The narrator speaks of arrogance, of how humanity's belief in progress blinds it to its own forgetfulness. We think we are the pinnacle of understanding, he says, but we are only the latest generation to believe so. The visuals show clocks spinning backward, technological marvels dissolving into ancient temples, as if reminding the viewer that civilization is cyclical, not linear. Perhaps the equations we search for today, the narrator suggests, were once known, written on walls that have long turned to dust. Then a striking image, a single chalkboard in a dimly lit classroom, filled with symbols that seem alive, vibrating. The narrator's tone becomes softer, almost reverent. Maybe there are patterns, whispers, embedded in the numbers we already know, pointing toward something beyond comprehension. The sound of a heartbeat blends with the hum of cosmic radiation, as if connecting human thought to the pulse of the universe itself. As the section approaches its climax, the narrative ties the forgotten to the eternal. Equations are not inventions, the narrator says. They are discoveries, reflections of laws that existed long before our minds could read them. The film overlays mathematical formulas over the cosmos. Fibonacci spirals, quantum diagrams, celestial maps. The feeling is both humbling and transcendent. The language of the universe never changes, he continues. Only our ability to hear it fades. The closing minutes are emotional and contemplative. A scientist sits alone under a flickering lamp, staring at symbols that seem familiar yet alien. The voiceover slows, maybe we do not find new truths, we remember them. Maybe every revelation is the recovery of something once lost. The imagery fades to a quiet shot of the night sky. Stars blink like forgotten words written across eternity. The narrator ends with a haunting line, delivered almost as a whisper, the universe keeps no secrets. It only waits for us to remember what we once knew. The music fades into silence, leaving the viewer suspended between awe and melancholy, a sense that the answers to creation may not lie ahead, but behind us, buried in the forgotten light of minds long gone. Far beyond the reach of our telescopes, past the edge of visible light, lies a silence that hums. It is not empty, it is filled with echoes, vibrations, and signals too faint for our eyes to catch. The film opens with a shot of the night sky, slow and endless. A soft orchestral note swells, trembling with tension. The narrator begins, his tone calm yet heavy with mystery. We look into the heavens and see light that began its journey billions of years ago. But there is another light, a light that never reached us. A light that was forgotten. The scene shifts to deep space, where ancient radiation flows like mist across the cosmos. This is the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation itself. The camera glides through it as if moving through the memory of the universe. The narrator continues, these are the oldest photons in existence, remnants from a time when the universe was still young and blind. They whisper the first words ever spoken in the language of light. Yet even these ancient signals are incomplete. Gaps appear, static hums. Something is missing. Something unseen. The visuals grow darker. Waves of invisible energy ripple through blackness. Infrared, ultraviolet, gamma, radio, all the unseen colors of reality. Our eyes perceive only a narrow band of truth, the narrator explains. Beyond that thin window lies an ocean of light that our senses cannot touch. The pace slows, drawing the audience into awe. A faint pulse flickers through the darkness like a heartbeat. If light is the voice of creation, he continues, then we are deaf to most of its song. Then the tone shifts toward suspense. The camera dives into the unseen spectrum, where wavelengths stretch and bend, revealing strange and haunting beauty. A ghostly glow forms in patterns resembling faces, movements, signals. Scientists once believed we could map every photon in the sky, the narrator says. But the universe hides more than it reveals. There are rays of light that travel endlessly, never colliding, never revealing themselves. They are lost messengers, travelers from before the dawn. As the visuals sweep across dark galaxies and voids, the narration deepens. We call it dark light or ghost light, the voice explains. It exists beyond our instruments, beyond our certainty. The music grows hauntingly minimal, a single tone that trembles like a secret. The camera focuses on vast stretches of nothing, but within that nothing, faint ripples move, like forgotten whispers of creation that never found a listener. The pacing picks up. Images flash of scientists in observatories, adjusting instruments, scanning for faint anomalies in cosmic background radiation. Numbers stream across computer screens. They search for patterns in the silence, the narrator says. Small deviations, barely perceptible, that might prove the existence of a light we have never seen. The suspense builds, lines of data flicker, a pulse repeats, something emerges from the noise. But what if that light still remembers us? What if it carries the story of a universe before ours? The visuals explode into a breathtaking sequence, an imagined vision of pre-creation light. Streams of luminous energy drift through the void, coalescing into shapes, ideas, possibilities. Perhaps not all light belongs to our universe, the narrator suggests. Perhaps some of it escaped the first creation, radiation from realities that came before. The tone is philosophical, speculative, grand. If this is true, he adds, then somewhere out there the first version of reality still glows, unseen, unreachable, eternal. The scene slows, shifting to a deep, reflective mood. The film now connects this unseen light to human perception and consciousness. Just as the cosmos hides unseen light, the narrator says, our minds hide unseen awareness. The imagery merges galaxies with neurons, cosmic dust with human thoughts. We do not see reality as it is, he continues, but as our senses allow. The rest is hidden, waiting to be discovered, or remembered. A moment of quiet awe follows. The music softens to a single piano melody. The narrator's tone turns intimate, almost a whisper. Some scientists call this dark energy. Some mystics call it the soul of the universe. But whatever name we give it, it is the same mystery, the light that never reached us, yet never stopped shining. The camera pans across the night sky, stars winking like eyes in a dream. The tension returns with contrast. If there is light we cannot see, the narrator asks, is there also truth we cannot bear? The visuals turn abstract, colors reversing, stars imploding, sound distorting. The tone grows eerie, filled with cosmic unease. The light we do see defines our world. The light we cannot see defines our limits. Humanity's instruments reach farther and farther, yet the unknown recedes just as quickly. The universe, the narrator says, is a mirror with no end. The film moves toward revelation. A simulation unfolds, light waves colliding, resonating, forming complex patterns that look eerily like thought. Perhaps the unseen light is not physical at all, the voice muses. Perhaps it is awareness itself, the residue of consciousness that existed before creation. The idea lands like a breathless possibility. The music rises again, hopeful but mysterious. The final images of the section are slow and haunting. The camera shows the Milky Way from afar, then pulls back further, until even galaxies blur into a faint shimmer of lost light. Some of this light will never touch another world, the narrator concludes softly. It will wander forever through the darkness, unseen, unmeasured, unknown. Yet still, it exists. A single line closes the section, echoing into silence. Not all light is meant to be found. Some is meant to remind us that mystery is the language of eternity. The music fades, leaving only a soft hum, the sound of light we can never see, passing quietly through the heart of existence. We look at the world and call it real. We open our eyes and light floods in, shapes, colors, motion, all forming what we call reality. But what if everything we see is only a mirror, a projection, an echo of something deeper? The section begins with a close-up of a human eye reflecting a rising sun. The narrator's voice enters softly, poetic yet unsettling. The universe has always been watching itself, he says. Every gaze, every glance, every act of seeing is the cosmos remembering what it looks like. The music hums low, a vibration that feels alive. The visuals shift to a sequence of eyes, animal, human, artificial, each reflecting galaxies, nebulae, flames. Perception is not passive, the narrator continues. It is the act by which reality comes into being. As light enters the eye, it becomes meaning. Without consciousness to receive it, light is nothing more than vibration. This is the mirror of the mind, the point where physics and awareness collide. We move inside the human brain, through a dazzling storm of neurons firing like lightning. Electric pulses leap between synapses, creating patterns as intricate as constellations. Every time you see, the voice says, you are not observing the world, you are creating it. The visuals show how the brain transforms raw signals into color, depth, and form. What we call the universe exists not outside us, but as an image painted within our minds. The tone is scientific yet dreamlike, merging wonder with revelation. Then comes a haunting question. If what we see is only our brain's translation, then what is the true face of reality? The pacing slows, the music fades to silence. The film cuts between the infinite cosmos and the intimate human face, suggesting a parallel. We are both observers and creators, the narrator says. The act of perception shapes the very fabric of what we perceive. Quantum mechanics flickers across the screen, wave-particle duality, superposition, uncertainty. A photon, the voice explains, does not decide whether to act as a wave or a particle until it is observed. The universe waits for attention before it becomes real. The visuals grow abstract, rippling grids of light, particles frozen mid-motion, time bending upon itself. The narrator's tone deepens, charged with philosophical weight. Perhaps the cosmos was blind until consciousness arose. Perhaps seeing is not a human act but a cosmic one, the universe using our eyes to look back at itself. This realization carries both beauty and dread. If reality requires perception, then what happens when there is no one left to see it? The tone shifts, faster pacing, tension rising. Everything you believe is solid, the voice continues, is built from perception. Rocks, trees, stars, all constructs shaped by interpretation. The film shows matter dissolving into waves of probability, reality flickering like film through a projector. Our senses, the narrator says, filter the infinite into something survivable. We see not what is but what we can bear. The visuals reveal the brain editing out billions of bits of sensory information every second, keeping only what fits the human model of truth. The emotional current builds. Perception, the narrator muses, is both a gift and a cage. We are trapped within our senses, able to see only through the narrow window evolution built for us. Yet within that limitation lies beauty, the miracle of awareness itself. The screen fills with overlapping layers of reality, dream, memory, and matter. A face dissolves into a nebula, a star becomes an eye. Perhaps the mirror of the mind reflects more than the world, the voice says. Perhaps it reflects creation itself. A quieter moment follows. The camera pans through a forest at twilight, light filtering through leaves in golden streams. The narrator speaks gently, light enters your eye, travels to your brain, and becomes vision. But in that instant, something greater happens. The universe becomes conscious of this moment, through you. The music shifts to a calm, celestial rhythm, evoking a sense of unity. To see the world is to participate in its unfolding, he continues. You are not separate from it, You are the act of its awareness. But the peace is temporary. The tone darkens again, weaving doubt and mystery. If we shape what we see, the narrator asks, then what else do we unknowingly create? The visuals twist into surreal images, cities melting into stars, faces fading into fractal light. Every thought changes the structure of the observer, he says. Every observation rewrites the observed. It is both empowering and terrifying, the realization that we are responsible for the very reality we inhabit. The film transitions to the metaphysical. Mystics across ages appear in montage. Monks, philosophers, physicists, all describing the same truth in different tongues. They called it Maya, illusion, the veil of perception. The voice narrates. They understood what science is only beginning to prove, that reality bends around awareness. The contrast between ancient intuition and modern discovery gives the sequence emotional power. Then a sudden silence. The screen fades to black except for a single point of light. What if consciousness is not within us, the narrator whispers, but we are within it? The idea expands like a revelation. The visuals bloom outward, light forming webs of awareness across the universe. Maybe the mirror of the mind does not reflect reality, the voice continues, maybe it projects it. The boundary between observer and observed disappears. The pacing slows to let the idea sink in. The narrator's tone becomes almost reverent. To know the universe, he says, is to know the self. And to see the self clearly is to glimpse infinity. The final images intertwine stars and neurons, galaxies and thought. The line between physics and philosophy dissolves completely. When you open your eyes, he concludes softly, the universe opens with you. The music fades, leaving only a faint echo, like a breath in the dark. The closing sentence lingers in silence. Perhaps the greatest illusion is that there was ever anything to see at all. Truth fractures like glass under pressure. For every answer, 1,000 new questions shimmer in its reflection. The section opens with a close-up of cracked glass slowly rotating in darkness, each fragment catching the light like a separate universe. The narrator's voice enters with quiet gravity. We look for truth as if it were one thing, solid, pure, indivisible. But the deeper we search, the more it shatters. Reality is not a single truth, but a storm of competing revelations. The music hums like tension before a storm, evoking awe and uncertainty. The scene expands to a montage of contrasting images, priests chanting under candlelight, scientists scribbling equations on whiteboards, children staring at stars. Every mind builds its own model of the universe, the voice continues. Each model feels complete, but none are absolute. Every truth is local, temporary, a reflection of the observer who perceives it. The tone is both philosophical and emotional, blending humility with the exhilaration of discovery. The visuals shift rapidly through centuries of human thought, ancient cosmologies, Renaissance sketches, modern simulations of the multiverse. Once we believed the Earth was the center. Then we believed the sun was. Then we discovered there may be no center at all. The narrator's voice deepens. Every truth we hold collapses into mystery when we look closer. The pacing quickens, reflecting the restless energy of the human mind chasing certainty through infinite complexity. A sudden pause. The music softens and we see a single candle burning in a dark room. But what if truth was never meant to be possessed? The narrator asks. What if it was meant to be pursued forever? The candlelight flickers, casting multiple shadows that move independently, like echoes of belief. The scene evokes the fragility of human understanding and the endless hunger for meaning. The film dives into the scientific paradoxes that define our modern understanding. In physics, truth is no longer stable, the voice explains. In one realm, relativity tells us that space and time are woven into one smooth fabric. In another, quantum mechanics tells us the universe dances to randomness and probability. Two truths. Both right. Both irreconcilable. Visuals of warped spacetime blend with shimmering quantum fields, forming a hypnotic contrast between order and chaos. We live between these contradictions, the narrator continues. And perhaps it is in that tension that truth actually lives. The mood intensifies as the narration explores humanity's psychological need for certainty. We crave absolute answers, he says. We want to know where we came from, why we exist, what happens when we die. But the cosmos offers no comfort, only questions that echo into eternity. The camera sweeps across deserts, mountains, and deep oceans, landscapes as empty and vast as our unanswered longing. The more we know, the voice murmurs, the more we realize how little can ever be known. The pacing accelerates again, building cinematic energy. We see debates between philosophers, collisions of particles, religious ceremonies, and digital simulations, all happening in quick succession. Science and faith, reason and myth, logic and emotion, all of them grasp at fragments of the same infinite mirror. Sparks fly, symbols overlap, voices rise and fade into one another, until everything becomes a single, pulsing image, the human mind struggling to comprehend its own reflection. Then comes contrast, a sudden drop into stillness. The music vanishes. The screen fades to black. The narrator whispers, maybe truth was never meant to be understood. Maybe it was meant to be felt. The visuals slowly reappear, images of people crying, laughing, holding hands, gazing at stars. When we love, when we grieve, when we stand in awe, the voice says, we touch something beyond reason. Perhaps that is the only truth that survives every theory, the experience of being alive. The tone shifts from despair to wonder. The narrator begins to thread together science and spirit, chaos and order. Truth is not found in equations or scriptures, he says. It is found in the space between them, the place where understanding and mystery hold hands. The music returns, now softer, warmer. The visuals show light scattering through raindrops, galaxies swirling like watercolor in motion, children reaching for the sky. But the story does not end in comfort. The narrator introduces the final paradox. If every truth is partial, he asks, can anything be absolutely real? The visuals turn abstract again. Fractals multiplying, universes blooming within universes. Every observer sees differently. Every particle exists only when observed. Every meaning depends on the mind that gives it shape. The tone becomes haunting, echoing the earlier theme of perception. Reality fractures not because it is broken, the voice says, but because it is infinite. The film builds toward a crescendo, music swelling, visuals accelerating between order and chaos, creation and collapse. We chase truth like light through a prism, the narrator intones. It dazzles us, blinds us, splits into colors we can never reunite. And still we keep searching. The words are delivered with both exhaustion and reverence. Humanity's endless quest for understanding becomes a form of worship, a cosmic dance between ignorance and enlightenment. The climax reaches its peak, a flood of imagery, supernovas, human eyes, equations dissolving into galaxies. The fractured truth, the narrator declares, is not failure. It is beauty. The universe speaks in contradictions because it was never meant to be simple. The music reaches a soaring high, then drops suddenly into a final whisper. In the last moments, the screen returns to the image of cracked glass from the opening. Now, instead of darkness between the fractures, light begins to pour through them. Perhaps truth was never meant to be whole, the narrator concludes softly. Perhaps its fragments are the only way infinity allows itself to be seen. The screen fades to black and for a breath, there is silence, before a final note resonates, deep and unresolved, like a question that will never stop echoing through the mind. The light we see tonight began its journey before we existed, before our planet cooled, before life breathed, before memory itself. The film opens with the camera gliding through space, passing through the faint blue haze of distant galaxies. The narrator's voice enters like a whisper from the beginning of time. Every photon that touches us is ancient, he says. It has crossed the cold silence of eternity to arrive here, to tell us its story. The tone is reverent, poetic, filled with the weight of ages. They are the ancient photons, the first messengers of creation. The visuals unfold like a dream. We see the early universe, a swirling soup of light and matter, chaotic yet alive. When the universe was born, the narrator continues, light filled everything. But as it expanded and cooled, that light began to stretch, to fade, to lose its warmth. The cosmic microwave background appears as a delicate shimmer, soft and ghostly, the faint afterglow of the beginning. And yet, the voice adds, that glow has never gone out. It still surrounds us, invisible but eternal, a memory of the first dawn. The pacing slows as the camera zooms in on a single beam of light traveling through the cosmos. This photon has traveled for 13 billion years, the narrator explains. It has passed dying stars and newborn galaxies, slipped through dust and time, never stopping, never aging. The music hums with quiet wonder. Light, he continues, does not grow old. It remembers. The scene cuts to a scientific visualization of photons moving through expanding space. Their paths bend around black holes, their wavelengths stretch with the growing universe. Each photon carries the fingerprint of its birth, the narrator says. It is a time capsule, a fragment of the universe's earliest thoughts. The tone grows philosophical. We do not look into space, he continues, we look into the past. Every starlight is history arriving late. Now the film brings humanity into focus. Astronomers peer through massive telescopes, capturing light that began its journey before Earth even existed. When we observe the sky, the voice explains, we are not seeing stars as they are but as they were. The cosmos we look upon tonight no longer exists. It is a ghost image, light still arriving from worlds that may already be gone. The visuals show a brilliant star fading into a supernova, its light continuing to travel through the void long after its death. This, the narrator says solemnly, is the tragedy and the beauty of light. It shows us what once was, never what is. The tone shifts gently from cosmic to personal. We too are made of this light, he says. Every atom in our bodies was forged in ancient stars. We are descendants of fire, walking memories of cosmic dawn. The music swells as we see the human form dissolve into particles of stardust, then reform into galaxies. To be alive is to carry the light of everything that came before. But not all photons reach their destination. The narrator introduces a haunting truth. Most of the universe's light will never be seen, he says. Lost to dust, devoured by black holes, trapped forever beyond the horizon of space. The visuals show vast shadows swallowing radiant waves. The universe is full of light that no one will ever witness, he continues. It is the poetry of existence, beautiful words written to be read by no one. The tone becomes melancholy, reflecting the loneliness of the cosmos. Then contrast, a spark of hope. And yet, the narrator whispers, some light endures. The visuals shift to the night sky above Earth, filled with constellations glowing faintly through atmosphere. Even after billions of years, these photons find their way to our eyes. They survive collisions, gravity, time itself, only to end their journey in a single instant of human perception. The music rises, a soft, emotional crescendo. In that instant, the universe knows itself again. The pacing slows for reflection. The camera shows people gazing at stars from deserts, mountaintops, cities. We are the final witnesses of ancient light, the voice says. When we look up, we become part of its story. The photon that left a dying sun now ends its 13 billion-year voyage within us. The idea is both humbling and transcendent, humanity as the final resting place of the universe's oldest memory. Then a philosophical turn. Light cannot exist without darkness, the narrator muses. And so, every photon carries with it the shadow of everything it has passed. The silence between stars, the emptiness between moments. The visuals blend light and shadow, flashes of nebulae against the black sea of space. Perhaps light's purpose is not to erase the dark, but to remind us that even in absence there is presence. The section deepens emotionally as it draws parallels between cosmic and human memory. We too are filled with ancient light, the voice continues. Our thoughts, our dreams, our stories, they are photons of consciousness traveling through generations, illuminating minds across time. The imagery shows candles being lit one after another, symbolizing knowledge passed forward through history. Every word we speak, the narrator adds, is a ripple of that same radiance. As the sequence nears its end, the film becomes almost meditative. The camera drifts through a field of stars slowly dimming into the distance. The music softens to a single note. The ancient photons still travel, the narrator says quietly. They do not rush. They do not rest. They simply move forever. The silence that follows feels sacred, timeless. The final image is a photon entering a human eye, dissolving into the reflection of a galaxy within the pupil. The narrator's closing words are whispered like a benediction. To see is to receive the oldest gift in existence. To remember is to keep that gift alive. And when the last light fades, it will not be gone. It will only be waiting somewhere to be seen again. The human mind believes it sees the world clearly, but every sight, every thought, every feeling is filtered through invisible walls. The scene opens in near darkness, with a faint flicker of light shimmering through glass. Dust swirls in slow motion. The narrator's voice begins softly, measured and haunting. Reality is not what we see. It is what survives the veil of perception. The screen fills with motion, waves of light bending through air, glass and water. A hand reaches out toward the shimmer, but it bends away, distorted. We live inside a filter, the narrator continues. Our eyes capture only a fraction of the spectrum. Our brains translate that fraction into meaning. The rest, the infinite rest, remains hidden. The camera zooms through an iris, into the inner machinery of the human brain. Neurons flash like galaxies, forming patterns of recognition, memory, and illusion. What we call seeing, the narrator explains, is not witnessing the world, it's constructing it. Our minds invent reality moment by moment. Then, a montage of scientific imagery. Electromagnetic waves, frequencies invisible to the human eye, infrared heat mapping, ultraviolet fluorescence. The human eye can see between 380 and 750 nanometers, the narrator says. Outside that narrow band lies an ocean of color, radiation, vibration, energy, an entire universe unseen. The pace builds, the music growing tense, hinting at awe and fear intertwined. The visuals now alternate between visible and invisible spectrums. Infrared scenes glowing red, ultraviolet worlds revealing strange patterns on plants and skin. Every creature, the voice continues, lives in its own reality. Bees see in ultraviolet. Snakes sense heat. Whales navigate sound. Each perceives a different universe, all existing side by side. The imagery evokes both wonder and isolation. Billions of worlds layered atop one another, none aware of the others. A sudden stillness. The film cuts to a human standing alone under a starlit sky. And we, the narrator whispers, are trapped in our own small window. We call it truth. The tone grows introspective, philosophical. Our senses protect us from madness by filtering the infinite. But in doing so, they hide the true nature of existence. The music fades to a low hum, and the visuals shift to surreal abstraction. Waves of color bleeding into shadow, shapes morphing into faces and galaxies. Even the instruments we build, the narrator says, extend our vision but only slightly. The universe is not bound by what we can measure. It simply waits beyond perception, patient and unseen. A scientist adjusts a telescope, its lens reflecting stars that no human eye will ever see directly. Every advancement in science, the voice continues, is a tear in the veil. Each discovery shows us not more of the universe, but how much we still cannot grasp. The tone mixes humility and exhilaration, balancing knowledge and mystery. Then the film turns inward again. The veil is not only around us, it is within us. The visuals shift to thoughts flickering in a brain scan. Our emotions, our memories, our beliefs, all shape the world we think we see. No two minds live in the same universe. Perception is a mirror that never stops warping. The pace slows to allow the viewer to reflect. We do not see things as they are, the narrator says, we see them as we are. The next sequence contrasts logic and illusion. Optical tricks, mirages, quantum experiments. Even at the smallest scales, the voice explains, reality bends under observation. The act of seeing changes what is seen. This recalls the earlier themes of consciousness as a creative force, linking human awareness with cosmic function. Emotion builds again. If perception shapes reality, the narrator asks, then what lies beyond it? What exists in the space between awareness and oblivion? The screen darkens, showing a faint shimmer behind a curtain of shadow. The voice lowers, there may be light beyond sight, truth beyond thought, existence beyond experience. The pacing accelerates, images layering rapidly, eyes, stars, data, temples, dreams. Mystics called it enlightenment. Scientists call it dark matter. Both point toward the same revelation. The unseen defines the seen. The music rises into a celestial crescendo, a sound that feels infinite yet unreachable. The tone softens again, becoming intimate. A child looks through a prism, colors scatter across their face. Perhaps the veil is not an obstacle, the narrator suggests, but a gift. Without it, we would drown in infinite truth. It is in what we cannot see that wonder survives. The scene feels tender, hopeful, a balance to the earlier existential tension. Now the camera pulls back, drifting from Earth into space. The universe hides itself not to deceive us, the voice says, but to invite us to look deeper. The stars fade, replaced by the faint glow of galaxies behind cosmic dust. Every time we learn to see a little more, the horizon expands. The unseen retreats but never disappears. That is its purpose, to keep us searching. The final moments are calm, meditative. A single thread of light shines through fog, growing brighter, illuminating the darkness around it. The narrator concludes in a tone both human and divine. The veil of perception is not the end of truth. It is its beginning. For what we cannot see is not beyond us. It is within us, waiting for the eyes of a deeper light to awaken. The music fades to a single sustained note, echoing like a breath between worlds. The screen fades to black, leaving only a lingering shimmer, light barely visible but felt. In the smallest places imaginable, where even light hesitates to pass, reality begins to blur. The film opens with a single particle suspended in darkness, flickering between presence and absence. The narrator's voice enters, measured, fascinated, almost reverent. Here, in the quantum realm, the rules of existence collapse. Matter behaves like thought. Probability becomes truth. The universe, at its core, is a dream still deciding what it wants to be. The visuals are hypnotic: swirling clouds of subatomic dust, bursts of radiant energy, waves dissolving into particles and back again. We once believed the universe was made of solid things, the narrator says. But the deeper we looked, the less we found. The building blocks of matter are not things, they are possibilities. The tone is awestruck, tinged with philosophical wonder. The film now transitions into explanation. Animated diagrams show electrons existing in two places at once, photons choosing their path only when observed. The quantum paradox is not just science, the narrator continues. It is a revelation about the nature of reality. At the smallest scales, the universe does not obey, it improvises. The pacing quickens. The screen flashes between iconic experiments: the double-slit test, Schrödinger's cat, quantum entanglement. A particle is both wave and object, both here and there, both alive and gone, the voice says. It becomes one only when someone looks. The act of observation collapses all potential futures into a single present. A pause follows, heavy with implication. In other words, the narrator whispers, reality waits for us. The imagery becomes ethereal, streams of light weaving through infinite darkness. Scientists call it superposition, but mystics called it something else: creation. The narrator's tone blends science and spirituality seamlessly. To observe is to create. To imagine is to awaken. The universe is not a machine, it is a mirror responding to awareness. The music swells, filled with both tension and serenity. The quantum world challenges everything we believe about truth, he continues. There is no fixed location, no solid matter, no unchanging law. Everything is probability, a dance between being and not being. The visuals show countless particles spinning, forming galaxies for brief seconds before dissolving into nothingness again. Every instant is the universe choosing itself, again and again. Then contrast, a return to human scale. A scientist sits before a chalkboard, equations sprawling like constellations. We can predict the behavior of subatomic particles with extraordinary precision, the narrator says. But we cannot explain why the universe behaves as if it knows we are watching. The tone shifts to eerie fascination. What if consciousness is not a product of physics, but its architect? The film slows. We see overlapping images of human eyes and quantum fields, neurons firing like stars. Perhaps observation is not passive, the voice suggests, but fundamental. Perhaps we do not study the universe, it studies itself through us. The thought lingers, hovering between logic and faith. Then a burst of light. The music transforms, more urgent now. Quantum entanglement, the narrator explains, defies distance. Two particles, separated by billions of miles, act as one. Change one and the other changes instantly, faster than light. The visuals show two glowing particles drifting apart across galaxies, still pulsing in unison. It is as if the universe itself refuses to be divided. The tone becomes deeply emotional. This, the narrator says softly, is the secret heart of existence: connection. Separation is an illusion. Every atom, every thought, every being is linked by threads of invisible resonance. The quantum world whispers what we've always felt: we are not alone. A pause follows, filled with quiet awe. The camera pans across vast star fields, then zooms into microscopic cells. From quarks to galaxies, everything vibrates in harmony, the narrator continues. The music of the universe is written in probability and played in consciousness. But then comes the uncertainty, the contrast that keeps the mind restless. If the universe exists only when observed, the voice asks, what happens when no one is watching? The imagery shifts: dark matter clouds, collapsing stars, particles flickering out of existence. Does reality pause? Or does it continue to dream without us? The film now weaves in human emotion: love, fear, longing. Perhaps consciousness is not confined to us, the narrator reflects. Perhaps awareness flows through all things. Every star that burns, every atom that moves, is part of one infinite perception experiencing itself in countless forms. The tone is deeply spiritual but grounded in scientific wonder. The pacing slows again for reflection. Quantum theory reveals that the universe is not made of matter but relationships. It is not a collection of things, it is a field of interactions. The visuals merge into a breathtaking sequence. Particles forming faces, galaxies pulsing like hearts, waves collapsing into light. The observer and the observed are one and the same. The music quiets to a single ethereal chord. The narrator's voice becomes intimate as if confiding in the viewer. We are taught that reality is outside us, he says. But perhaps it is within. Perhaps the quantum world is showing us that everything, past, present, and future, is woven into a single moment of infinite awareness. The section reaches its emotional crescendo. Light expands, filling the screen. The paradox is not meant to be solved, the narrator concludes. It is meant to be felt. For in the smallest flicker of existence, we find the greatest truth, that the universe is alive, and it knows itself through the light that sees. The music fades into silence, leaving only a faint pulse, the echo of reality breathing through thought. The final image is of a single photon drifting through darkness, flickering softly, undecided between being and not being. Then nothing, just quiet and the question left behind. We speak of beginnings as though they are destinations, as if time itself were a line with a clear origin. But what if there was never a start at all? What if creation is not a moment but a motion, an eternal breath rising and falling without end? The scene begins in stillness. The camera hovers over a vast, starless void, silent and endless. Then, slowly, a faint spiral of light appears, growing, expanding, folding back upon itself. The narrator's voice enters, measured, reflective, almost sorrowful. We are obsessed with beginnings. We search for the first spark, the first cause, the first word. But perhaps the universe has no first moment. Perhaps it is the story that never began. The tone is contemplative, almost meditative. Ancient chants hum softly beneath the narration, blending with the deep vibration of the cosmos. For centuries, the voice continues, we have tried to define time, to box it, to measure it, to own it. But time does not move as we think it does. It flows in circles, not lines. The visuals reveal hourglasses dissolving into galaxies, galaxies spiraling into eyes, and eyes closing in sleep, time looping endlessly upon itself. We are trapped in the illusion of direction, the narrator says, believing that what begins must end and what ends must vanish. But the universe laughs at straight lines. The film transitions into a sequence of creation myths from around the world. Egyptian, Hindu, and Mayan cosmologies unfold in vivid imagery, each depicting creation as cyclical, not singular. The ancients knew what modern science is beginning to rediscover, the narrator explains. That endings are beginnings wearing different names. That destruction is not death, but transformation. Flames consume cities and from the ashes new worlds rise. Stars collapse into black holes, and new stars are born from their remains. Nothing ever begins, the voice says quietly. It only continues. The music swells with low, resonant strings as the film shifts to a scientific exploration. Even the Big Bang, the narrator notes, may not have been a true beginning. Some theories suggest that before our universe there was another, its collapse giving birth to ours. Perhaps creation is not a singular event, but a heartbeat, expansion and contraction, existence and renewal. The visuals illustrate this idea with breathtaking symmetry, the universe inhaling and exhaling across eternity. The tone deepens, becoming introspective. Our minds crave origins because we fear infinity, the narrator muses. We long for the comfort of a first moment, a starting point to make sense of the endless. The camera follows a human walking along a desert horizon at dawn. Footprints fade into sand as the sun rises, symbolic of human desire to mark the infinite with a beginning. But maybe meaning does not live at the start of things, the voice says, but within their repetition. Then comes contrast, an emotional pivot. Every civilization, every life, every love story begins with the illusion of a first time, the narrator continues. We fall in love and we call it the beginning. But perhaps we are simply remembering something we have already known, played out again in a new form. The visuals mirror this sentiment, two lovers reaching for each other under the stars, their silhouettes dissolving into cosmic patterns, merging with ancient echoes of themselves. Time, the voice whispers, is memory pretending to be progress. The film grows more abstract as it moves deeper into the idea. Clocks melt into streams of light. Universes bloom and fade like flowers opening and closing in slow motion. In truth, the narrator says, there may be no origin, no destination, only the rhythm of becoming. The tone is serene, philosophical, rich with poetic resonance. A moment of silence follows, broken only by a soft hum. But if there is no beginning, the narrator asks, what of creation? What of purpose? The question hangs in the void like an echo. The visuals slow, showing galaxies drifting apart, light fading into shadow. Perhaps the meaning of life is not to reach an end, but to witness the cycle. To be the awareness that watches eternity breathe. The section deepens emotionally, moving into the realm of human reflection. We are temporary beings inside an infinite pattern, the narrator says. We rise and fall like the tides, believing ourselves to be new, when in truth we are waves returning to the same ocean. The music swells, haunting choirs mixed with the faint sound of heartbeats. Every life is a rephrasing of an ancient sentence. Every death, a pause before it is spoken again. The visuals show civilizations rising, building, collapsing, and being rediscovered, each one repeating the same mistakes and triumphs. History is not linear, the narrator observes. It spirals. It remembers itself in new forms. The tone blends melancholy with quiet awe. Even stars die, only to be reborn from their own ashes. Even the atoms in our bodies have lived other lives, in comets, in suns, in forgotten worlds. The pacing slows for a moment of reflection. If creation is a cycle, the narrator whispers, then perhaps nothing is ever truly lost. Perhaps eternity is not endless time, but endless return. The music softens to near silence. The camera moves through cosmic clouds that fold into human faces, then dissolve again into dust. We are fragments of infinity, the narrator continues. We vanish, we return, we vanish again. But the pattern never stops. As the section nears its end, the imagery turns luminous. The myth of beginning, the narrator says, is our attempt to make sense of forever. But the truth is more beautiful than we dare imagine. Creation is happening now, always, everywhere. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every flicker of thought is the universe creating itself again. The music rises one final time, strings swelling into a vast, emotional crescendo. The visuals reveal galaxies folding into spirals, human lives flickering like fireflies within the grand continuum. We are not born from the beginning, the narrator concludes softly. We are born from the continuation. And in that endless rhythm we find our place in the song of time. The final image lingers, a spiral of light expanding endlessly outward, then inward, then outward again, breathing, eternal. The voice fades into silence with the final words, whispered like a secret. There was never a first light. There is only the light that never stopped. Fire. It was the first magic humanity ever knew, the first alchemy, the first god. The section opens with a slow shot of a torch flickering in a cavern. The flame dances, its light painting ancient symbols across the stone. The narrator's voice emerges low and solemn, filled with wonder and reverence. Long before science, before equations and telescopes, there was fire, the light that whispered of the heavens. When gods dreamed of creation, they dreamed in fire. The music swells with a primal rhythm, the sound of drums echoing through vast darkness. Sparks rise like constellations, floating upward into an unseen night. Fire was our first teacher, the narrator continues. It devoured and it gave. It destroyed and it revealed. It was the first mirror through which humanity saw both its power and its peril. The flame grows, shifting into scenes of volcanoes, lightning, and the sun itself, nature's original forges of creation. The visuals shift from natural flame to the first humans huddled around it, faces lit in awe. They believed it divine, the voice says. A living spirit stolen from the gods, a piece of the sun captured on earth. The tone blends mythology with emotion, bridging ancient fear and cosmic reverence. Fire was warmth in the cold void. It was light in the endless night. And it was a mystery no mind could tame. The pacing slows as the imagery deepens. The screen fills with ancient temples, priests carrying torches through darkness. Every civilization built its myths upon this sacred light, the narrator says. The Greeks told of Prometheus, who stole fire from the heavens and was punished for his gift. The Hindus spoke of Agni, the divine flame that carried prayers to the gods. The Persians, the Egyptians, the Aztecs, all saw in fire the reflection of the eternal. The tone is lyrical, the words carrying the weight of millennia. The music grows darker. But fire was not only worshipped, it was feared. It could create or consume, nourish or destroy. Like light itself, it was the embodiment of duality. The visuals show wildfires sweeping across forests, lightning igniting dry plains, stars exploding into supernovas. In every flicker of flame, the ancients saw both life and death. They understood that to bring light into the world, one must also invite shadow. The narrator pauses, the silence heavy. When gods dreamed of fire, he says softly, they were dreaming of us. The image cuts to human eyes reflecting flame, and then to neurons firing inside the brain, tiny electrical storms, sparks of thought. We are made of light and shadow, creators of both warmth and ruin. Our minds burn with questions, our hearts with desire. We are fire walking in flesh. The tone grows grander, more cosmic. In the stars, fire still reigns as the architect of everything we know. Every atom, every element of our bodies, was forged in the furnaces of dying suns. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the gold in our hands, all were born in fire. The visuals show stars collapsing and exploding, scattering their contents across galaxies. We are children of those ancient infernos, the narrator continues. We are the gods' forgotten embers. The pacing quickens. The scene transitions to humanity's discovery of technology. Forges glowing, engines roaring, cities illuminated by electric fire. The divine flame that once flickered in caves now burns in the veins of our machines, the voice says. We no longer worship fire, we command it. Factories, rockets, and power plants fill the screen. The tone shifts from awe to unease. But command is not understanding. We have harnessed the same fire that forged creation, and we wield it without remembering its cost. A darker melody emerges, low, trembling strings. When gods dreamed of fire, the narrator says, they knew it would one day test their children. For every light we create, another darkness grows. Images flash of war, explosions, cities burning under human hands. We have become the gods we once feared, creators with the power to unmake the world. The emotional weight peaks here, fire as both enlightenment and apocalypse. Then stillness. The visuals slow to a single candle flame, trembling in a dark room. Yet even now, the voice says gently, the flame endures. It is not evil, not holy. It simply is, a reminder of the eternal balance between creation and destruction. The candle's light expands, transforming into a sunrise over Earth. The tone softens into hope. Fire is the heartbeat of the cosmos, the pulse of transformation, the soul of renewal. The film becomes meditative, almost spiritual. When we look into fire, the narrator whispers, we are looking into the memory of the universe itself. Every flicker tells the same story, the story of energy becoming form, of light struggling against the void. The visuals show fire merging with cosmic light, stars forming from nebulae, and human eyes glimmering with reflection. A new motif arises, the continuity between myth and science. The ancients saw divinity in flame, the narrator says, and they were not wrong. They spoke in metaphor what physics would one day prove, that everything burns, transforms, and is reborn. Energy never dies, it only changes shape. The music grows brighter, shimmering with warmth. In every sun, every atom, every human heart, the same fire still breathes. The emotional tone turns transcendent. Perhaps the gods did not give us fire, the narrator muses. Perhaps they gave us memory, the memory of the light that once forged us. The camera pulls back to reveal the universe as a single, endless flame flickering in the void. That is why we are drawn to its glow. It is recognition. We are looking into what we have always been. The final moments are quiet, reverent. The flame from the beginning returns, burning steadily in the darkness. The narrator's voice lowers to a whisper. When gods dreamed of fire, they dreamed of awakening, the moment when their creation would remember its origin. The music fades into a single, trembling note. And now, as we stare into the light, we are reminded of the truth that fire always knew, that creation and destruction are not opposites, they are one eternal flame. The screen fades to black. A single ember drifts upward and disappears, leaving behind a lingering glow. Light and shadow, twin threads woven through the fabric of creation. One gives form, the other gives meaning. The section opens with a soft image, sunlight pouring through a cracked temple roof, dust swirling in golden air. The narrator's voice enters, deep and resonant. In every story of the cosmos there is a balance. The brightness of existence is defined by what hides behind it. Shadows of the divine, the unseen face of creation, linger wherever light dares to shine. The music hums with solemn intensity, part hymn and part heartbeat. From the first flare of the Big Bang to the glow of a dying star, the voice continues, light has been worshipped as pure, eternal, good. But what if darkness is not its enemy? What if it is its reflection, its necessary twin? The tone is meditative but tinged with unease, inviting the audience to question the oldest moral dichotomy. The scene expands across cultures. We see ancient mythologies projected in flame and stone, the Egyptian Ra battling Apep, the serpent of night, the Zoroastrian struggle between Ahura Mazda and Engra Mainyu, the Christian Lucifer cast down from heaven's light. Across ages we have feared the dark, the narrator says, and yet, every god who carried light was born from shadow. The visuals intertwine, angels emerging from black mist, suns rising from deep abyss, galaxies swirling from invisible gravity. Perhaps divinity itself requires both, illumination and void. The tone deepens, growing almost spiritual. Darkness is not the absence of God, the narrator murmurs, but the face of God unseen. The camera drifts through nebulae that resemble ink spreading through water, swirls of color suspended in infinite black. Without the unseen, there could be no mystery, no wonder, no reason to look beyond. The pace slows, allowing the audience to breathe the weight of that idea. Then a sudden contrast. The visuals turn harsh, wars, fire, ruin, cruelty. But what of the darkness within us? The voice asks. If creation carries shadow, so too must its children. The music tightens with tension. Every act of compassion casts a shadow of violence. Every dream of perfection births its opposite. We are divine contradictions, light seeking to escape the darkness we also are. The tone is human now, vulnerable, honest. The imagery flashes between beauty and horror, cathedrals and battlefields, lovers and graves. The universe does not choose sides, the narrator says. It holds them both. And perhaps that is what makes it divine, the ability to contain all things, even what we cannot bear to see. The scene feels both epic and intimate, weaving cosmic symbolism with human frailty. A quieter moment follows. The screen fades to a single candle flickering against a dark wall. Light defines itself through contrast, the narrator continues. Without the dark, it would have no edges, no shape. Even the stars need night to be seen. The candle's flame wavers and a hand passes over it, creating fleeting shadows. Maybe darkness is not the enemy of light, the voice suggests. Maybe it is its lover, the one who gives it purpose. The music softens into a low choir, voices blending like wind through a cathedral. The visuals show galaxies colliding, birthing new light out of chaos. In every collapse, creation renews itself, the narrator explains. The shadow of the divine is not destruction, it is transformation. The tone grows hopeful yet solemn as the scene reveals black holes not as monsters, but as wombs of rebirth. From their darkness, new light emerges. Even the void creates. The pacing quickens slightly, carrying a rhythm of revelation. We have feared the shadow because we thought it meant evil, the narrator says, but evil is not darkness, it is blindness to balance. True divinity is wholeness, the ability to embrace both chaos and harmony. The imagery now shows yin and yang symbols formed from galaxies, the orbit of suns around black cores, the intertwining of opposites in nature. The sacred is not found in light alone. It is found in the dance between the two. Emotion builds again as the film turns inward. Every soul carries its own night, the narrator says softly. The pain we hide, the guilt we bury, the longing we deny, these are the shadows that shape us. The visuals shift to human silhouettes fading into mist, their reflections glowing faintly. To face our darkness is not to lose the light, it is to complete it. The music swells, filled with both sorrow and peace. The divine does not destroy the dark. It redeems it. The tone grows philosophical, blending cosmic imagery with intimate truth. The shadow of the divine lives in everything, the narrator continues. In the silence between thoughts, in the grief that follows love, in the emptiness that teaches fullness. The pacing slows again, offering a space for reflection. If we could see clearly, we would understand that every loss carries light disguised as pain. A moment of stillness follows. The camera moves through a black void scattered with faint points of light, like hope suspended in eternity. Even the darkest night, the narrator whispers, is filled with stars we cannot yet see. The line hangs like a prayer, soft and infinite. Now the scene expands to cosmic scale. The universe itself is shown as a vast interplay of shadow and glow, dark matter binding galaxies, invisible energy sculpting visible form. The cosmos itself is mostly dark, the narrator explains. But it is this darkness that holds everything together. Without it, stars could not shine and we could not exist. The tone is reverent, transcendent. Perhaps what we call divine is not the light that shines, but the darkness that allows it to be. The final minutes bring resolution and grace. Light and shadow are not rivals, the voice concludes, but partners in eternity's design. The visuals show two hands, one glowing, one shadowed, reaching toward each other until they merge into pure radiance. Creation was never a war between good and evil, the narrator says. It was a balance-seeking harmony. The music rises into a majestic crescendo, then fades into silence as the screen returns to the temple from the beginning. The beam of sunlight is gone, but the air still glows faintly, as though the light has been absorbed into the stones themselves. The narrator's voice lowers to a whisper. The shadows of the divine are not curses, they are invitations. To look deeper. To see the whole. A final image, a star flickers and fades, leaving a brief shimmer of silver light in the void. Then, softly, the closing line, and in that silence the divine breathes again, both dark and bright, forever one. The stars stretch outward like a frozen sea of fire, vast, endless, unknowable. The film opens with this image, the camera drifting slowly toward the edge of the observable universe, where light itself begins to fade. A low, resonant hum fills the air, half music, half vibration. The narrator's voice enters, measured, awestruck, touched by humility. For as long as we have looked upward, we have wondered what lies beyond. Where does space end? What happens at the edge of infinity? The visuals shift, galaxies receding, their spirals shrinking into points of light. Our instruments can see almost 14 billion years into the past, the narrator continues. And yet, even there, the horizon remains. The farther we look, the more the universe expands away from us, faster than light itself. Beyond that edge, no message, no photon, no memory can return. The tone is vast and haunting, filled with reverence for the unreachable. The music deepens, strings stretching in slow, dissonant notes. We call it the cosmic horizon, the voice explains. A border not of walls but of silence. Beyond it lies something that defies every law we know. Not nothingness but something different, something beyond the fabric of space and time. The camera passes through a faint glowing mist, the limit of visibility, before plunging into blackness. A pause follows. The screen is empty. The voice softens. At the edge of infinity, everything we understand begins to unravel. Time slows, light bends, and the difference between matter and energy disappears. The tone is almost spiritual, the kind of awe that borders on fear. If we could stand there, we would see the past, the present, and the future fold together like pages in the same book. The visuals return, cosmic filaments stretching like threads of light across a dark canvas. The universe is expanding, the narrator says. Not into space but into itself. The imagery shows galaxies drifting apart, carried by invisible currents of dark energy. Every second, more of the cosmos slips beyond our reach. One day, even the nearest galaxies will vanish from sight, leaving only the faint glow of our own. The music trembles softly, echoing the sadness of cosmic isolation. We live in a universe that is slowly disappearing from its own eyes. The pacing slows and the tone becomes philosophical. Infinity is not a number, the narrator muses. It is an idea, a mirror that reflects our inability to comprehend the whole. The visuals shift to abstract imagery, waves folding upon themselves, mirrors reflecting into endless copies. To approach infinity is to approach understanding that can never be completed. The film cuts to scientists at observatories, gazing through massive telescopes into deep space. We build machines to reach farther, to see beyond the veil, the voice says. But no matter how powerful our vision, the horizon retreats. The universe keeps its final secret. The tone is steady, meditative. Perhaps infinity is not meant to be crossed. Perhaps it exists to teach us humility, to remind us that wonder is stronger than knowing. Then, a shift in rhythm, a flash of light, an eruption of cosmic energy. The visuals depict a supermassive black hole, its event horizon glowing like molten gold. Here, the narrator says, we meet another kind of edge. The boundary where gravity becomes absolute. Where even light cannot escape. The camera dives toward the black hole's rim, and for a moment, time seems to stop. We call it the event horizon, the place where space turns inward and reality begins to fold. The voice deepens with awe. But even this may not be an end. Some physicists believe that what falls in may emerge elsewhere, reborn into another universe. The tone shifts from tension to transcendence. The imagery transforms from darkness into color, light streaming outward, galaxies blooming anew. If that is true, the narrator continues, then the universe may not be infinite space but infinite renewal, a chain of creation without beginning or end. The pacing rises, carrying emotion and wonder. Infinity then is not a destination. It is motion, breathing, endless transformation. The visuals now become poetic, a single droplet falling into still water, its ripples expanding until they resemble the spirals of galaxies. Every edge we find, the voice says, is not a boundary but an invitation to see beyond the limits of perception. The tone is serene yet filled with awe. The cosmos is not expanding into emptiness. It is expanding into possibility. The section turns inward. But the edge of infinity does not only exist in space, the narrator says softly. It exists within us. The camera zooms into a human eye reflecting a galaxy, then dives inward, neurons firing like stars. The same boundaries we face in the cosmos we face in consciousness. The farther we look within, the more infinite we become. The music grows tender, almost human. The mind and the universe are two mirrors facing each other, each infinite because the other reflects it. A contemplative silence follows, broken only by a faint chime. Maybe the edge of infinity is not a wall to reach, the narrator reflects, but a horizon to recognize. It exists not to stop us but to define us, to remind us that we are finite creatures inside an infinite dream. The imagery slows, Earth glowing faintly in the vast black, a fragile light surrounded by eternity. Then comes contrast. The tone darkens, quieter, fragile. Yet there is terror in infinity, the voice admits. It humbles us. It reminds us how small we are, how brief. The edge of infinity is not only beauty, it is loneliness. For beyond it lies silence too vast for imagination. The visuals fade to black. No sound, no stars, just void. But then a soft pulse of light. And still, the narrator says, voice barely above a whisper, something in us reaches toward it. We cannot look away. We are drawn to the horizon because it is what we are made of. The music swells again, hopeful and transcendent. Infinity is not out there. It is within every heartbeat, every spark of thought, every photon that dares to travel through time. The pacing slows for the closing image, a single star at the farthest edge of sight, flickering gently before fading into the darkness. Perhaps the edge of infinity is not the end of the universe, the narrator concludes, but the beginning of understanding. The music grows faint, like a breath dissolving into the void. For beyond the reach of light lies not nothing, but everything waiting to be seen. The final image lingers, darkness filled with a quiet shimmer, the echo of eternity breathing softly. Light returns. Not as a flare or explosion but as a memory, the soft pulse of something ancient, forgotten, eternal. The final section opens in silence. The screen is black, but faint golden particles drift like dust illuminated by a hidden sun. The narrator's voice begins, tender and resonant. Before creation there was darkness. And within that darkness, light was dreaming. It was not the light of stars or fire or physics, but the first awareness, the forgotten light beyond creation. The music begins as a faint vibration, swelling into a slow, ethereal crescendo. The visuals unfold through contrast, flashes of galaxies being born, nebulae pulsing like hearts, then fading again into quiet nothingness. All we know, the narrator says, is shaped by this first light. It is the echo that gave rise to time, the pulse that awakened space. Every atom still hums with its memory. The tone is contemplative, reverent. For billions of years, this light has traveled unseen, not bound to photons or energy but to awareness itself, the voice continues. It is the consciousness that existed before existence, the silence that learned to sing. The pacing slows, each sentence lingering like a breath. Every spark we see, every thought we think, is a reflection of that original glow, the one that was never created because it never needed to be. The visuals move through the history of the cosmos, stars igniting, planets forming, oceans glowing beneath alien skies, then dissolve into human imagery. A child opening their eyes for the first time, a hand reaching toward sunlight through glass, a candle flickering in an empty cathedral. In every light we kindle, the narrator says, we are remembering that first illumination. Creation is not a beginning, it is a continuation of remembering. The music swells into a symphonic pulse, alternating between majesty and intimacy. The forgotten light was never lost, the voice says. It is buried within us, waiting to be seen. The camera moves through a human eye into the neural landscape of the brain, synapses glowing like galaxies. When we think, when we love, when we wonder, that light awakens again. The universe dreams through us, seeing itself in our awareness. Then a pause, quiet, reflective. We have spent centuries chasing origins, searching for the moment when everything began, the narrator whispers. But what if the beginning was never a moment but a memory? What if the universe is not expanding outward but inward, toward understanding itself? The music lowers, leaving only a steady heartbeat-like rhythm. Perhaps we are not witnesses of creation, the voice says, but participants in its remembering. The visuals shift to vastness, the Earth from space, turning in slow motion, sunlight spilling across its surface. Every photon that touches us, the narrator continues, is a message from the beginning of time, a reminder of what we once were. The imagery alternates between cosmic and personal, supernovas blooming, then hands touching, faces illuminated by sunrise. The forgotten light is not in the sky, the voice says softly. It is in us. It is us. A contrast builds. The tone deepens, mysterious yet hopeful. For there are still shadows in the cosmos, places where light cannot go. But even in the void, the memory of illumination endures. It is not extinguished, it only hides, waiting for consciousness to find it again. The visuals reveal dark matter forming webs through the universe, pulsing faintly as though alive. The universe is not empty, the narrator says. It is full of light that remembers how to shine. The pacing quickens as science and spirituality merge seamlessly. Physicists tell us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, the voice explains. The mystics tell us that the soul is eternal. They are speaking the same truth in different tongues, that the light of existence has no origin, no death, only transformation. The music grows powerful, orchestral, carrying both sorrow and triumph. That which was before creation still moves through everything that exists. Now the imagery becomes transcendent. Light expands from Earth, flooding the cosmos, turning galaxies into shimmering waves. The narrator's tone rises in resonance. This is the forgotten light, neither sacred nor scientific, neither God nor particle. It is the eternal bridge between knowing and being, between question and answer, between us and what came before us. A gentle sequence follows, scenes of humanity across time. Ancient fires, libraries, revolutions, prayers, moments of silence. Every act of discovery, the narrator says, is an act of remembrance. We are not inventing meaning, we are uncovering what was always there. The visuals slow, dissolving into an image of a single radiant figure standing against the horizon of stars, humanity as the vessel of cosmic awareness. To remember the forgotten light, the voice continues, is to awaken the part of us that was never born and can never die. The tone softens again, intimate, almost whispering. Perhaps the purpose of existence is not to find the truth, but to remember it. To remember that the light we seek has always been within us, quiet, patient, eternal. The music fades into a soft piano melody, delicate as breath. Even in our moments of despair, the narrator says, when the world feels dim and hope feels distant, that ancient light still burns beneath the surface of everything. Waiting. The final crescendo begins, a swelling of strings and choir that feels both cosmic and human. The visuals blur between the microscopic and the infinite, atoms turning into stars, stars into eyes, eyes into galaxies. Everything is light remembering itself, the narrator says with reverent calm. We are not apart from creation, we are its continuation, its reflection, its voice. The camera pulls back, Earth glowing, then shrinking into a single spark within an endless sea of light. The music reaches its peak. And when the final star fades, the narrator concludes, the forgotten light will remain. Not as fire, not as energy, but as awareness, silent, infinite, waiting to dream again. The crescendo fades into stillness. The screen goes black, but a faint shimmer remains, pulsing once, twice, like the heartbeat of eternity. Then, in a whisper, the final words, the forgotten light beyond creation was never gone. It was always here, watching, remembering, becoming. The silence that follows is not empty. It feels alive, breathing, the quiet of something that has never ended. There is a stillness that follows every revelation, a silence so deep it feels like the universe exhaling. The 19th section begins in that silence. The screen is completely black and then, faintly, a pulse appears, a single rhythm of light, slow and steady, like a heartbeat echoing across eternity. The narrator's voice enters, quiet but filled with gravity. After all the searching, after all the stars and equations and dreams, we return to what was always here, the quiet pulse of being. Soft strings rise, delicate as breath. Every journey, the narrator continues, whether across galaxies or through the corridors of the mind, ends not in discovery but in recognition. We do not find the truth, we remember it. The visuals unfold as though the cosmos itself is inhaling and exhaling, galaxies expanding and contracting, ocean tides rising and falling, a newborn's first breath mirroring the rhythm of supernovas. This is the forgotten truth that light has always carried. The universe is not a machine, it is a living thought. The pacing is slow, meditative. The visuals drift between cosmic and human scale, the swirl of nebulae morphing into the swirl of a human fingerprint, rivers branching like arteries, lightning resembling neurons. Every pattern we see above is reflected within, the narrator says. We are not observers of the universe, we are the continuation of its imagination. The tone deepens with philosophical weight. Across billions of years, light has traveled to reach this moment, to look back at itself through your eyes. Every photon, every vibration, every pulse of energy has been part of a single unfolding story. The music hums gently beneath, a slow harmonic resonance that mirrors the rhythm of a heartbeat. And now, through us, that story becomes aware. The visuals now focus on humanity, faces illuminated by firelight, by the glow of screens, by the shimmer of stars. We have built temples, telescopes, and myths in our longing to understand, the narrator says. But in every act of reaching outward, we have been reaching inward. The cosmos was never distant. It has always been within us, speaking through wonder, through curiosity, through love. The imagery becomes deeply emotional, parents holding children under starlit skies, an old man tracing constellations with his finger, a scientist staring at data with tears in her eyes. The forgotten light has never been beyond reach, the voice says softly. It shines in every act of compassion, every question asked in the dark, every silence that listens for something greater. The tone carries warmth and melancholy, bridging cosmic awe with human intimacy. A pause, music fades to near silence. We used to ask where we came from, the narrator continues. But perhaps the better question is, what are we returning to? The visuals slow, planets orbiting their stars, electrons circling their nuclei, people turning toward one another. Everything moves in circles, he says. Even light bends back to find itself. The pacing slows further, the tone becoming almost sacred. This is the edge of knowledge, the narrator says. Where science becomes silence and silence becomes understanding. The visuals show a wave of light dissolving into pure darkness, then re-emerging in gentle ripples of gold. At the end of all exploration we find not answers but presence. The awareness that has always been and always will be. Then a shift, contrast. The tone grows heavier, darker. But awareness carries responsibility, the voice says. To remember is to awaken. An awakening demands that we live as part of what we have remembered. The music builds with quiet intensity. The universe is not watching us, it is being us. Every choice, every breath, every act of kindness or cruelty echoes across the fabric of everything. The visuals flash between opposites, birth and death, creation and decay, stars exploding and seeds sprouting. We are not small, the narrator continues. We are significance itself, given form. To harm, to heal, to love, to destroy, all of it ripples through eternity. The tone carries both warning and reverence. For when we act, it is not we who move, it is the universe moving through us. The film pauses again in silence. The screen fades to the image of a single human silhouette standing beneath an infinite sky. So what is left? The voice asks. After all the knowledge, after all the revelation? The camera zooms slowly toward the stars, then back into the human eye reflecting them. Perhaps the answer is this: to live in awareness. To walk gently, to see deeply, to remember that every moment is sacred. The music begins to swell, tender and luminous. The forgotten light beyond creation is not a thing to be found, the narrator says, but a way to be. It is the grace of existence, the beauty of impermanence, the wonder of simply being aware. The visuals weave together all that came before, fire, water, galaxies, human faces, all glowing with a shared, silent rhythm. The pacing becomes fluid, lyrical. The universe is not asking us to conquer it, the voice says softly. It is asking us to reflect it, to carry its light forward in every action, every thought, every breath. The imagery slows to a heartbeat of light pulsing through everything, mountains, oceans, veins, stars. We are the continuation of creation's first dream, the narrator adds. And that dream is still unfolding. Then the tone becomes transcendent. Infinity does not lie ahead, the voice says, it is happening now. You are infinity experiencing itself. You are the forgotten light remembering its name. The visuals dissolve into a golden white glow, filling the entire screen until there is nothing but light. The music reaches a slow, majestic crescendo, voices rising in choral harmony, strings shimmering with warmth. To exist, the narrator concludes, is to be the universe aware of itself. To love, to think, to breathe, these are not human acts but cosmic ones. Every heartbeat is a ripple across eternity. Every moment, a reflection of the light that never died. The imagery fades to a single glowing horizon line, a blend of dawn and dusk. And so, the narrator whispers, we end where we began, in the presence of light and the mystery that holds it. The music fades into silence. The screen remains blank for a few seconds, then flickers with a final image, a child looking up at the night sky, eyes filled with reflection. The final words echo softly, fading like breath into the void. The forgotten light beyond creation was never forgotten. It was waiting, for you to remember. The silence that follows feels infinite, not an ending but a continuation. The screen opens in darkness, quiet, boundless, infinite. A faint shimmer begins to glow, soft as breath, expanding slowly until it becomes a halo of gold that fills the horizon. The music is gentle, orchestral, and filled with longing. The narrator's voice enters, calm yet resonant, carrying the weight of everything that has come before. And so we return, to the beginning that was never a beginning. To the light that was never lost. To the silence that sings through all creation. The visuals move through time in reverse. Stars collapse back into dust. Galaxies swirl inward like spirals of smoke. Oceans fade, mountains sink, cities dissolve into light. All things that rise, the narrator continues, must one day fall, but falling is not the end. It is the way the universe breathes. Creation and return, expansion and stillness, the same heartbeat pulsing forever. The pace slows as the music becomes a low hum, almost a lullaby. We have followed the light across the cosmos, the narrator says softly, through birth and death, through mystery and revelation. But the final truth is not out there among the stars. It has been with us all along, quietly burning behind our eyes. The visuals now focus on humanity. A mother's touch, a child's laughter, lovers sharing silence beneath the night sky. We are the mirror of creation, the voice says. The universe sees itself through our wonder, feels itself through our love, remembers itself through our dreams. The tone is intimate, as if the cosmos itself is whispering. In every act of tenderness, the infinite finds its reflection. Then comes a profound pause. The screen fades to black and for a moment, there is only the sound of breathing, slow, rhythmic, endless. Perhaps this, the narrator says quietly, is what the forgotten light has been waiting for, not discovery, not conquest, but remembrance. The moment when the universe, through us, recognizes itself as whole. The pacing quickens slightly as visuals of history unfold in luminous montage. Ancient fires flickering in caves, pyramids under starlight, telescopes scanning the sky, rockets lifting into the unknown. From the first spark of curiosity to the farthest reach of imagination, every act of seeking has been one long echo of the same question. Who are we? The tone carries both awe and gentleness. And the answer, whispered through time, has always been the same. We are that which looks for itself. The camera zooms through galaxies and cells, weaving between macro and micro, showing that the pattern never changes. Spirals repeat in seashells and storms, in fingerprints and galaxies. The universe speaks in repetition, the narrator explains. It remembers itself in patterns, in circles, in light returning home. The music swells, filling the soundscape with emotion. Every sunrise, the narrator continues, is a rehearsal of creation. Every heartbeat is the echo of the first pulse. Every ending is an invitation to begin again. The visuals bloom with color, supernovas bursting into life, rain falling on leaves, eyes opening in wonder. The universe does not end, he says. It transforms. Now the tone becomes luminous, transcendent. The visuals transition to light flooding through vast cosmic webs, moving like rivers of gold through the darkness. What we call the end is not death, the voice says, but the dissolving of boundaries, the moment when everything returns to unity. The pacing slows, allowing the idea to linger. When we let go of what separates us, We become what has always been, light remembering itself. The next sequence blends humanity and cosmos together. People walking through cities lit like constellations, the Milky Way mirrored in ocean waves, a single tear reflecting the stars. The forgotten light beyond creation is not somewhere far away, the narrator says. It is the quiet truth behind every joy, every sorrow, every breath. It is the knowing that there is no beyond, there is only this here now. The music dips into a softer, reverent tone, like a benediction. We spend our lives chasing meaning, the voice continues. But perhaps meaning is not something to be found, it is what remains when we stop searching. The visuals slow to show stillness, an old hand resting on a young one, a leaf falling gently into water, the reflection of the moon breaking across ripples. In the silence between heartbeats, the narrator whispers, the forgotten light speaks. It says you were never separate. You were always home. A quiet crescendo begins, strings rising softly, joined by distant choirs. Creation was never about beginnings or endings, the voice says, but about awareness awakening within itself. The universe does not seek to complete itself. It already is. The screen fills with swirling light and shadow, merging until they are indistinguishable. Every contrast, every paradox, every question was part of the same eternal conversation, the dialogue between the infinite and the finite. The visuals move now beyond form, pure waves of color and energy blending into one luminous flow. This, the narrator says, is the forgotten light beyond creation, not the light of stars but the light of understanding, the realization that nothing is ever lost, that even in darkness the memory of light endures. A deep stillness follows. The music fades into a single sustained note that seems to hover outside of time. The visuals show the universe folding into itself, a single point of radiance suspended in infinite black. When the last star fades, the narrator whispers, the light will not die. It will become everything again, the silence, the potential, the dream. The tone becomes gentle, human again. And we who are made of that same light will return with it. Not as bodies or thoughts but as awareness, woven back into the endless fabric of being. The music begins to glow softly once more, like dawn returning after a long night. For in truth, the narrator says, there was never separation, only remembering. Never birth, only transformation. Never end, only return. The final montage begins. Scenes of Earth flash in slow motion. Children playing, oceans shimmering, clouds drifting over mountains, night falling over cities. The forgotten light does not ask to be worshipped. The voice says, only to be seen. It lives in the space between every breath, in the silence before every word. The imagery grows brighter, almost blinding. Perhaps, the narrator says with warmth, the purpose of life was never to escape the darkness, but to illuminate it. To live, to love, to remember until even shadow becomes light. The music swells into one last crescendo, a chorus rising like sunrise. The visuals dissolve into pure radiance, golden and white, the light pulsating like the heartbeat of eternity. The narrator's final words are spoken in a whisper that feels infinite. This is the forgotten light beyond creation, the first and last breath of existence. It was never gone. It was never far. It was always here, waiting for us to open our eyes. The screen fades to white. The music softens, lingering like the echo of a soul. Then, as silence returns, a single faint pulse of light flickers once more, steady, eternal, alive.